David, thanks so much for being here. It's a pleasure to host you. We're already laughing, like it's already we didn't even start.
Very nice to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Pleasure. And so let me start with a random question, which is if someone meets you for the first time and they don't know you yet, they don't know what you do, and they ask you, David, what do you do in life? How would you answer the question?
I think I would say I'm a audio engineer who DJs on weekends. Like I see myself as a sound designer and audio engineer, and more becoming a DJ. For me, the career is pretty fresh, I would say. So that's why I would say like my basic profession is audio engineer, or what I studied, sound design, and DJing is a thing that I do on weekends and doing luckily professionally for I would say 2-3 years now.
Okay. Oh, the DJ part. So in your mind, you still think about yourself as an audio engineer first, then producer, and then DJ.
Yeah, it's like these three things are things that the main part of my life, and I would structure it like in three different parts. I learned. So I learned sound design, and I'm a sound designer and audio engineer, and that's what I'm doing during the week. And DJing is the thing that I'm doing during the weekend, and producing is actually a thing I would say is a part that I love so much, and the part which is so deeply in me that I consider it more like a passion and hobby rather than a profession.
So interesting. And now that you say this, something came to mind. When you go to clubs, so you're just like going there as an audience to dance or to hang out with people, do you get technical when you're listening to someone's music? For example, you go to Berghain, you listen to someone play a nice set.
Yeah.
Does your mind drift into the very technical, analytical?
Yeah, actually,
analysis?
every time I'm seeing also like the front right corner in Berghain.
The DJ corner.
We all know it.
Yeah.
That's the part where you find the nerds or the people who are analyzing and standing right next to the booth and like looking above the booth or like next to the booth. So I would say like for me, I'm going partying, and I always have this part of me where I listen to the tracks or to the set and analyze. And maybe it's a negative part because you not 100% relaxed.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm always relaxed, but you can say that it's maybe like a part of your personality, or it's like a small negative part that you always have to analyze and listen to the technical parts of the set or of the tracks.
Yeah, but you still manage to enjoy it like fully. You're present. They don't go totally analytical into. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I always enjoy, like, I would say like 90% you always enjoy the sets, and you're not so stiff that you always have to analyze. But of course, sometimes you have like a part of your nerdy DJ self that you always have to analyze or to take small notes in your mind, like, that was a nice element, or that was a nice part of the DJ set. Maybe I could take this as an inspiration for your future work. Yeah,
for sure. And talking about like also the environment you're in, you grew up in Berlin. I read like in many of the previous interview you released, and there is a place that you mentioned a couple of times. I'm gonna maybe misspell the name. Tacheles.
Yeah, it's, I would say like Tacheles is
Tacheles
in German. So that was like a creative art space. I don't know if you already or if you still have these spaces in Berlin. Do you know these kind of places in Berlin?
Tell me more.
It's like a all-in-all place. Actually, there were like it was a big building where at daytime you had like art spaces where painters or people who do special arts like drawing or art objects. Everyone had their space there, or like his atelier, you say in
Yeah, yeah,
English?
yeah.
Yeah, so these kind of places, and at night or on weekends, you had spaces in this building where you had Goa, trance, and minimal parties, and also like bars,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time also like art vernissages or installations. So you had a
Yeah.
party going, but you also in the same time you had rooms where you could visit and see art, and that was a very unique place actually. Like or I don't know if every Berliner knows, but I think most of the people know this place.
Yeah.
So it was at Oranienburger Tor, or
Wearing
next
Tor.
to Oranienburger Tor, on the other side of the synagogue.
Okay, okay.
I don't know if the building still exists. I read something about that it's gonna be yeah turned
Demolished.
down, demolished. Actually this place was a very important place for me because I visited it so much with my friends, and we went always like in the early days. I would say like when we started going out, we always visited these places and checked out the artwork and had some drinks there, and were going to these Goa trance parties.
Amazing. Was that the start for you to get closer to the world of DJing?
I wouldn't say it to DJing. It was actually really an early times where I just started going out.
Okay, okay.
Just going out at night and having a good time with friends and exploring, actually, like exploring the city. I think if you're starting to grow up in Berlin, you first going out to home parties, maybe to bars, and then
Yeah.
exploring the city. Sadly, we don't have that much clubs anymore, I would say. Like there was also some other clubs which closed already, but it was a more explorational time where you
Yeah.
just had the chance to getting to know the clubs which you have in your city.
Yeah. How old were you when you started going out and going to clubs?
I think like really with 16 maybe.
Yeah. And when did the idea of becoming an audio engineer come? Like 16, you start going out to clubs, you start liking music, hanging out. How long after did you think I want to be an audio engineer? I want to study
Not
music?
pretty much long after, I would say like 17 or 18.
Okay, okay.
I started doing music already with 16. So when I started going out, I already did my first tracks on GarageBand,
Yeah.
GarageBand, and then Logic Pro, and quickly moved to Ableton. So yeah, I started I think I started with my sound design with 18 maybe. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. And at that time, were you already planning to release? No, or releasing actually?
Yeah, I already wanted to release actually, but
Okay.
I think I had I needed some more time to explore my sound and just to get to know
Yeah.
the DAWs.
Yeah, yeah, got it. And when you think about your production, is there any of the earlier tracks that you still remember, and maybe it doesn't sound like you would sound today, like your new production, but that you still feel connected to? One of the earliest tracks of yours?
Some very early tracks of me. I have some. I have like a backup SSD, or the backup cards where you have like your old stuff, and sometimes I listen to the early tracks and they sound pretty weird, but it's always nice to listen
Yeah.
to the early stuff and just like it's like a time machine in the early days actually.
Yeah.
So but I don't know if I have a connection. It's just like a backup SSD where you have access to it, and you always have the opportunity to listen to the early stuff.
Got it. And is there, if we look at the more recent discovery of yours, is there any of the tracks that for you represent something deep, where you have a very good connection with?
I mean, I would say like the track Ecosphere on Art. I think it's one of the tracks where I started doing the melody and the drums, and everything came so smoothly together. And while you're producing, maybe you know this feeling when you just have this kind of thing that you know, like, that's it.
Yeah.
And it was a really special that's it when I did this track. And it's actually a really emotional track, or a really sunrisey track.
Yeah. I love this. And have you thought what made that happen? Like, was there something that inspired you, an event in your life, a feeling or an emotion?
Yeah, I think it was a time where I just had a really clear mind, or a clear vision of how my music needs to sound, and I had a lot of inspiration from these early 2000 Paddy tracks, very emotional tracks, tracks which are just standout tracks as they are, not Tool tracks, not DJ tracks, just like these kind of old schooly tracks with really good melodies and stuff. And I had this inspiration from a couple of tracks, so I really wanted to get this kind of vibe.
So it seems like you had inspiration from other music. You made a decision on where you wanted to go with your musical direction, and then you mentioned something before interesting, which is you had a clear mind.
Yeah.
Was there a moment in your life where you felt like stress-free, like you didn't have other shit to think about, other?
Yeah, I think when I started doing music, you had a really clear mind, and I have the feeling the more you have to do, the more you have to structure your life, and somehow it's getting full, like like how do you say where the books are standing, like a
bookshelf, like
like you have a bookshelf, and it's getting full. You're buying the books, and it's getting more full and full, and you have to structure where to put your books.
Yeah.
So like the more you're doing and the more stuff you have to do, the more you don't have space for your time. You don't have space for yourself or for your mindset, and that's why it's always. I have the feeling like you always have to make space for your mind, like taking time off and getting this time for the inspiration.
Does it feel like this right now? Because now you have your audio engineering job during the week. You have gigs during the weekend, almost every weekend. You have tons of releases that are coming out. Do you feel like this? There is like too many books on the shelf.
Yeah, sometimes, of course. It's also like when I started to be a freelance audio engineer last year. That was pretty early, like almost last year in March or February. I started to be a freelance sound designer, and since then you always have like to structure your life and to sort out how to manage your day and how to do things properly, so your head doesn't get full, or so you don't have like this head buzz or head fog, how you say it. Yeah, that's why for me it's still a bit like a challenge, but I think it's getting better. It's getting better with time, and you just need to be calm, and I think you just have to live a healthy life, do sports, these kind of things maybe everyone is saying, like do sports, sleep well, eat healthy. But that's actually true. Like nobody will tell you something new and you never heard, but that's actually like it is. So that's what I realized also, like maybe some other artists in your interviews said, you just need to get this balance from time to, like, with time you're also getting the balance.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, and it's very hard because life changes, life takes over. You have other things in life, but I think having this mentality of knowing when you need to take care of yourself is what allows you to do this for the long run, right?
Yeah.
Where you don't get burned, you don't get
Yeah.
destroyed. Yeah, it's interesting because also the stress has a big impact on the creativity, right?
Yeah.
As you were saying, if you have too many books on the shelf, like too many, I always say, like, we open tabs in your browsers, like you have 100 open. At some point, you're like, fuck, I can't do music because your mind is thinking. You're not feeling anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are also a couple of shows or people who helped me also, like, I don't know if you know them, like Andrew Huberman or David Goggins, this kind of people. Actually really nice to listen to from time to time. They also have like some really nice podcasts or episodes which maybe fits more to you, maybe less to you, like how to manage your dopamine level, or how to still stay mentally healthy and stuff. So these kind of things are pretty motivating, actually.
I know of Andrew Huberman a lot. Like, I've listened to a lot of his podcasts, or he going to other podcasts, and I love it because there was one specific podcast I think with Tim Ferriss, like the second one that he did with him, that he mentioned something he never mentioned before, because he always says sleep first thing, eating, light exposure, physical exercise. He always says this 4 thing, and there is a 5th thing they only mentioned for the first time in this podcast, which is like social contact. I remember when he said that, I was like, no shit, amazing, he said, like, within 24 hours, I need to do these 5 things, otherwise I know I'll crash.
Yeah.
And then he always says, like, I need to meet someone, a good friend, like, someone in person. It's very important too.
Yeah. Also, like, having a cold shower or, regularly doing sports and this kind of stuff. Yeah. There are things which are... repeating from time to time from people to people, but there are also some nice things I heard also with the show from David Goggins, or the interviews he gave. I don't know if you read the book from him.
No, I know of him, but I never. No, I don't think so. No. Yeah, there are some interesting stuff, definitely, which helped me also improving the work-life balance, maybe. Yeah. And when you get into the studio, for example, what is your weekly routine? So you have audio engineering job as a freelancer, which means you can structure the time, but do you have days where you do only production, only music production, or how do you structure the week?
So basically, what helps me just getting into the flow for the studio time is like waking up, not being on the phone, maybe putting the phone directly away, going out, doing some sports, and maybe eat some light stuff. Yeah. And then just going to the studio, or like starting producing and having the phone far away from the studio working space. Because nowadays with all this social media stuff and messages and stuff, you just getting disrupted, and also your creative flow getting disrupted. So you're starting something, and with any message, even if you look like a couple of seconds on your phone, it's directly like a cut. Yeah. So that helps me really well getting into the flow.
That's very interesting. So you managed to do, let's say, 2-3 hours of undistracted time in the studio, and then after that you do the audio engineering work. So let's say the analytical work comes after. Yeah.
But for the analytical work, it's also the same. Like you're putting your phone away, then you have some studio time, and then you maybe have a break, you eat something, and then you're checking your phone, and then you have the second round. So you can also split it in rounds, like 2 hours work, then break, 2 hours work, and then break.
Yeah.
And also for the analytical stuff, if you're looking in your phone and listening to something in mixdown for a mixdown, that's also like that's not gonna work actually.
Yeah. Because you get distracted. And
Yeah, because also your acoustical or your psychoacoustical visualization or how you hear
Perceive,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, actually, it's also getting disrupted by your phone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big interference in our minds, right? And
Yeah.
everything gets. And so, David, when did you start your studies of audio engineering?
So I started in 2017 and studied until 2021.
Yeah, and then that was already after the pandemic. So you were already producing music at that time. You were already making music.
Yeah. So of course, like I started with 16 and switched to Ableton when I was 18 and was doing music maybe for almost 3 years. Yeah.
Okay, already.
And then I started studying.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there was another question I wanted to ask you, which is around. You say that if you're really inspired, you can make a track in half an hour, right? And
Yeah.
is there anything or anything you do to get inspiration aside from the rituals? But like you listen to music, you go for a walk, you watch something else. What gives you inspiration?
I think a lot of inspiration comes from good films, music which is not electronic, so like psychedelic rock, dub reggae, like indie rock.
Yeah.
A lot of these kind of things, and classical concerts also.
And so, for example, you are going to the cinema, you're watching a movie, you see or you hear a very beautiful soundtrack. What happens after? You write notes, you remember everything, and then you go back to the studio, and it counts.
I never write notes, but it's like also like reading a book, and it's inside your head, and you're taking your notes in your head, and maybe something was really memorable, which you directly like locked in your head, like simple small things or names or sound design, of course, obviously.
Super interesting. And when then you go to the studio, do you happen to remember the vibe, the emotions that you got from the inspiration, or you remember, for example, an idea, a technical thing? For example, I don't know, the soundtrack sounded like this thing in the background that moves from left to right. I want to try something like this.
It's more like a mood from the film, I think. Like every film has a mood, or soundtrack which has a mood, and small parts of the soundtracks are more inspirational, or maybe a scene from the track. So it's more really like the overall mood of the track, of the film.
Of the film, and that you then
or of the sound design or soundtrack.
Okay.
Yeah.
That eventually informs or inspires your track.
Yeah. I remember like people were saying like they're getting inspiration from like mangas or like Japanese films or something like this, because the mood, or the, how they say, like the overall style of the series or films are getting them inspired.
Yeah.
Like Ghost in the Shell or something like this. So it's always like kind of a vibe of the film or of the series which get you inspired.
So yes, and is there, for example, any track that you were very inspired by, and you made it, you thought, okay, this track is great, and then you send it out to other people, and then nobody really resonates with that? Does that ever happen to you?
That I thought it's gonna be not resonating with me or with the people.
Let's do. Yeah, okay, the opposite. So you thought it's not gonna resonate with people, but then you send it out and everybody loves it.
I think it was with Mutual Rhythm release with Shima, the track called Shima.
Okay.
I thought it's a bit too, yeah, like too distorted or too heavy, but actually people were loving it very much, and it's very often played. But yeah, like
Yeah.
nowadays, people also tend to play a bit more harder, or a lot of people like more heavier tracks.
Yeah. And so it worked out. And what's the story behind that track? Because also that EP, Permanent, on Mutual Rhythm, you have different names that are interesting. What's the story and the concept behind Permanent?
It's actually a funny thing. It's like a planet name generator, which I use. Yeah, I've like very often an inspiration from. And it's not an app. It's like you have like different planet name generators on Google. You can just Google planet name generator, and then you
Here we
have
go.
like interesting names, and that's like the inspiration I'm getting from like it's maybe. I don't know if it's an AI or another technical stuff which is used there, but yeah, the names are really sounding like different interesting planets.
Yeah, they do. They do. And the name of the EP is Permanent, right? And
Yeah, permanent actually because I don't even know exactly how the idea was, but it was more like an overall feeling that things have to stay permanent, or some things are staying permanent, some are not. So it's like also a more deeper meaning, but yeah, the planet names are were more fun stuff.
interesting. And when with Shima, because you didn't think people would like it, you sent it to Marco, or like how did it happen to get to Marco and the Mutual Rhythm guys?
With Marco, I was working specifically on this EP, so I tried to do tracks which are fitting more into the concept and into the overall concept, and was also exchanging constantly with Marco about it. So sending him the stuff and getting feedback, and thinking about the overall sound of the EP. It needs to like it. We wanted to have it a bit more harder, or a bit more deeper, or a bit more not so happy, or
Okay.
like the other EPs where I have more melodic stuff and maybe more tribalish stuff. So we wanted to have it a bit more different for permanent. So I tried to do a bit more darker stuff, or a bit more heavier stuff, which I think was pretty much like it sounded now, like it sounds now actually.
Got it. Okay, okay, okay. So you worked also like with Marco. Marco kind of you bounced ideas back and forth with
Yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, and there was another story that I wanted to ask you about, which is I think much earlier than Permanent, which is when you did the release with them.
Yeah.
This label that unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. And you and Lag told me, Milos, that you went to Novi Sad to actually mix the record in Lag's studio.
Yeah.
Tell me more about the story.
So I was listening to Milos quite a while. So when I started making music, I was already listening to his stuff, to his Mort releases and everything. And he was one of the artists who I'm trusted to send music for the first time to get some feedback. And he was very nice and very open-minded to listen to my music, and also pretty direct with feedback and stuff, but I loved it. So he gave always like honest feedback, but generally he said that the music is good and he wants to show it to the owner of them and send it them. And we decided that we need some more work for the mixdowns, because it was in my early days where it sounded not so well, maybe in the, like it sounded shit in the mixdown. So he proposed that I come to his place to mix the music. So for a couple of days, or it was a weekend. Yeah. So I was traveling to to Serbia, and he picked me up from the airport, and I stayed at his place
Amazing.
for the weekend. And it
That's
was it was a really intense weekend because he was mixing the whole day basically, and I
Yeah.
was sitting right next to him and was just looking how he works, and it was
Your tracks. He was mixing your tracks.
and it was exhausting. Like for him, he was working his ass off to do the mixes right, and I was listening and watching for hours, and we only get some, like a couple of hours rest to get some food or get some air, like, and yeah, it was pretty intense, but at the end it sounded really nice.
Wow. Yeah, and it's so great that he did it actually. They
Yeah.
invited you to his
Yeah,
place. Like,
yeah. I'm always like, always when I see Milos, I say that I'm super grateful for everything
Yeah.
what he has done for me. Like, yeah, mixing the first record.
Amazing. Yeah, what a story. He's such a great person.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
That's actually how we know each other.
Yeah.
Through
It was a funny thing. Like after his HoS set, and then we're getting a soup at some Asian place, and he was saying that you're coming, and he wanted to introduce me to you.
Yeah, exactly. And then we were talking about, wow, yeah, I remember I entered and there was a very heavy conversation, we were talking about like wars and, politics. And then we went into more like music.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's such a great, cool guy. Amazing.
Oh yeah, the talk about the war was heavy.
Yeah, intense. And talking about more about your discography and releases, you have now released on Arts, on Mutual Rhythm, on a bunch of other labels, Voltage of course, and you also started your own label. I'm gonna ask you about that in a second. But what is the process when you work with labels? Do you send demos, or do you connect with the owners before and then eventually comes naturally?
I think the process changed over time because when I started making music, I just sent out music how I did for Milos or for them. Like I sent out the music to Milos, and he showed the music to them. That was one way. But then for the others, I was sending out just a demo actually to the normal demo email you find on SoundCloud or back in the days. It was Facebook, which is slowly dying. I have the feeling, But that was the process when I started, and now I just have another vision or another plan for my music. I think now I just have the people I trust and I already work with, and I don't have the feeling I need to send music to someone or. At least not to people I don't know generally. So I really love working with people I really trust and I already work with. So and for the future, actually, for my own label, I just want to focus also a bit more on Tane and collect my music for the future releases. So that's also taking a lot of time and effort, and that's actually the plan.
Yeah, for Tane, for your label,
Yeah.
Because you started it, what, 2 years ago? You had one release on record, on our
Yeah.
record. Are you planning to also have other artists or just your music for now?
No, it's gonna be a label only for my releases where I can express myself just as I want and don't have any deadlines or ideas from others. It's just like it's nice to have a base where you can do everything you want. You can release randomly a jungle record or something else. Like that's actually the plan for every release to have some other ideas and just to feature maybe a period of time of your life where you have inspiration from different things of your of the spirit of life, and then putting it into music and feature just interesting stuff you want to release.
That's creative freedom, right? That's the
Yeah.
reason. Are you planning to do only records, only vinyls?
No, it's gonna be also like the first release, vinyls and digital
Oh,
also.
you're gonna do vinyl and digital
Yeah,
then from
yeah,
now on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think that vinyl can slow you down, especially if you want to have this creative freedom of I have two jungle tracks, I want to make a record out of it or a release. Vinyl is 6 months at least of.
No, it's
Like,
actually getting better.
It's getting better,
So,
yeah.
like what I heard, it's now 3-4 months, and it's
Okay.
actually
That's
more
okay.
than enough. Yeah, yeah. Because now, at this point of life, I'm working a bit slower than I did before because I found my signature sound, but I want to change it a bit more. Like, I think I found it in a way that music sounds maybe like me,
Yeah.
or every track maybe sounds a bit. Every track which I do sounds like me, but I want to change the aesthetic or the character of the sound and change the signature sounds in some sort of way.
Yeah, I got it. And so now you feel that you found your voice, musical voice. You're happy with what you're putting out. It feels very much you.
I think partly like I think for a musician or for a producer, if he is 100% fulfilled with his music, maybe it's not the best way. I have the feeling because you always have to have like a headroom to improve yourself. So it's maybe 95% you're happy with, and these 5% you can improve always,
Yeah.
or maybe more.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with what I'm doing, but I have the feeling you always can do better.
Yeah, for sure. That's a very good way to approach it. Because, yeah. So I think it feels like you found your signature sound. You're happy with that, but then of course you want to improve it and change
Yeah,
it.
that's why like
Yeah.
the signature sound I have now is not fulfilling me anymore from the signature sound I have or I had with the previous releases, for example. So I want to switch my signature sound in another direction or
Yeah.
just go further.
Do you ever doubt yourself? Like, for example, if you have a track that when you produce it, you're happy about and you're considering releasing it on a label, on your label, do you ever have this like voice in your head that tell you, oh, David, don't do it, this track is shit. People are gonna laugh at it because the last record was amazing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like, I think everyone has it. It would be weird if someone saying that he don't have it. Like,
Yeah.
so actually, these self-doubts of a musician is pretty common, I think. So that's also a part of this evolving the signature sound. You have self-doubt, or you're not sure with your sound and you want to improve it, and it's also with the general feeling of making music or going in some sort of direction that you're not sure, but it's like a healthy part of not being sure, but still
Yeah.
trying to move on and to overcome your self-doubt.
Yeah. So you have a healthy relationship with your self-doubt, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
you feel it as everybody else, but then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, it's what it is. I just keep going.
Yeah. So self-doubts actually, they're part of your life. Sometimes
Yeah.
you just evolving always. Like your whole life, you're trying to get better, or getting peace with your inner self, finding your inner voice.
Yeah.
And there are always like challenges and parts of your life where you're not sure, and when you're starting making music you're not sure if it sounds good, or if you already have released some records, or a couple of times in your life you're still not sure.
Right.
Yeah, because you're not sure for the next releases.
Yeah. And then when you have a successful record or
Yeah.
whatever
Or
success means
even
to
if you have a successful or the
Yeah.
the successfulest record
Yeah.
of your life, you still will not be sure, because now you have a successful record. Now you have to do a more successful
Yeah.
record.
You have you
Because
feel expectation. You
yeah,
can feel
I mean, yeah, it depends on your expectations, of course.
Yeah.
But I think if you have a really good record out, now you have like the hunger and the inner, yeah, like the inner fire to try to do a better record. In my
Yeah.
opinion, like to do every time you're trying to do a bit better.
Yeah, yeah, which also pushes you of course, to become better, but also
Yeah.
to refresh yourself, find
Yeah.
something else that is a new challenge for you.
Yeah, that's why, like, if you're producing a good record and then you're like so exhausted, and finally you did this amazing record, and you're like, oh fuck, I finally did it.
Yeah,
And then you need some time to load, to charge your batteries for the next. And of course, like if you already did a good record in some sort of way and you had your ways to do it, you cannot take these, or you can take parts of this journey of producing the record, but you still have to evolve new methods and trying to do something new. Like,
yeah,
otherwise it will be a second good record you already did.
yeah, and it's a copy of the previous one. Yeah,
That's why, like, this is like a part of the journey, I think. For me, I would say, with the past records I did,
Yeah.
it's done and you're happy with it, but now time to move on.
yeah. How attached are you to your previous music? I mean, like do you feel some detachment when you put something out? Do you feel like, okay, that's done, I can move on? Or you always feel, oh fuck, I will never beat that track, I will never do something as good as that track?
No, I actually, with the music I did, I have a couple of tracks I really like, and I have them like in my reference folder, for example, like a small folder where I have music I really like, and I put also my tracks in there to have a general feeling like, this track I really like it and it worked really well.
Yeah.
And but I would never try to do this track again. Like, it's like, yeah, it's just a basic reference track.
Yeah.
Where you have the feeling, these kind of pieces or this kind of vibe I really like, and I would love to take this part into my next journey, into my next signature sound, or into my next
Yeah.
yeah
Project. Yeah, it's like if you're painting, you found the color, mixing two colors,
Yeah.
work for you. It's like you can use it as another base
yeah,
color.
exactly, like mixing two colors.
Yeah. Very interesting. And talking about challenges of your journey so far, what has been one of the hardest things you had to face?
And journeys in terms of musician or a DJ?
Let's say music production.
Hard journeys in music production.
Or challenges, like challenging moments that you had.
I think like when I did my very first record also with Milos, or I did the music and we were mixing it, and then the whole process took a long time, and for a young guy who just started his journey, it's maybe some sort of challenge to go through all these parts of process and to experience for the first time this process of making a record, and being patient also, like taking his time, being patient, and doing everything step by step.
Yeah. And Okay, and for someone that, for example, is starting to do music today, let's say they struggle to find their audience, struggle to find anybody who gives them feedback yet. They haven't made this connection, they haven't released anything, but they really want to do it. What would be one piece of advice that you would give them? Like it could be, or in your mind could be an advice to a younger David just starting the journey. What would you tell them, like to encourage them to keep going?
I think just being patient is really important, and believing in yourself, and trying to find the right people, but not in a pushy way, maybe not in a rushing way,
Mm-hmm.
rather than being humble and trying to connect in a human way, and yeah, finding artists you like, and maybe approach them in a humble and polite way, and ask if they would be interested in listening to the music.
Like you and Lag.
Yeah.
Very, very clear case, like eventually.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You started sending stuff, he was available, he told you, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, of course, it's not always the case that the people answer, but that's also like the part where you staying, you have to stay humble and patient
Yeah.
for all the time. Like even if you have to wait, you just trying to another time, but or another another artist. You're trying to approach to another artist.
Yeah, and I think people are people. Everybody has
Everyone,
life.
like not everyone has time for you. Like
It's very important that we need to respect it. On the other side, that person has a fucking life and a lot of problems too, and they're busy, they have projects. So yeah.
But I also have another idea of a story, or another part of for what was hard as a musician.
Yeah.
Maybe it sounds a bit better than with the story with them. Like the time where I had full-time job and tried to manage full-time job and being a producer, and that was like super tough for your mental health.
Tell me more, because I'm I'm kind of in that situation. I want to know.
Yeah, actually, so that's maybe a better idea, and also maybe a bit better story. Not approaching this them story, maybe not to that them guys getting angry or something. So yeah, like the story with the full-time job, I was working in a dubbing station here in Berlin, or in 2 dubbing stations, and I was just trying to find a place as an audio engineer in this big world of audio, or of media, or like the film industry and music industry. So I thought I'd try my luck in a dubbing station. So where you do the English version into a German version.
Yeah.
You're recording artists who are speaking the films in a German version, and then you're cutting it to the picture. And that's like a really tough job if you're doing it from 9 a.m. till 6:30, 7 p.m. And that's like 5 days a week, and you're coming home and you're still thinking like, fuck yeah, I need to do music, like, and I have to move on also in my musical career. And that was like so tough for my mental health that I, at some point, I really did a plan, made some thoughts how I can get out of this, or how I can survive also financially without this job, because this job is pretty well paid, but it also you're paying for your mental health and
Right.
your time.
Yeah.
So that was nonsense for me to pay for my time, and also I would be rather poor and happy than
Yeah.
than rich but mentally
Yeah.
down. So at some point I really decided to quit this stuff and getting a coffee job, or just a rough coffee job, or like a washing job and doing coffee and some finger food, but having time to make music, and it was the best decision I
Yeah.
could ever make.
Because that allowed you to, first of all, probably have more time and
Yeah,
less stress.
it was just like having more time. Yeah.
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 And from there, then you decided to go to freelancing, so do audio
Yeah,
engineering,
so
freelancing.
yeah, actually, so yeah, at this point, I was getting some more gigs, and also did some mixdown jobs, mastering jobs, sound design,
Yeah.
and for the first time, the first period, I was working in a coffee, or in a coffee shop, and at some point I also quitted this job because it was also pretty. It was low money for
The time.
some couple of
Yeah.
hours, so that was not making sense. And at some point, I also quitted this.
Yeah. And from there, how long did it take to you from the moment you say, okay, I'm gonna quit the job as a barista working in a coffee shop, to build enough other gigs or audio engineering clients that you could cut the first one? Was it like a 6 months or like took longer?
Until I could cut the
Yeah.
dubbing station or the.
Oh, no, the bar job, because the bar job substituted the dubbing station, right? So you did the dubbing station, then you left, went to the bar job,
Yeah.
and then
yeah.
for the bar job you went freelancing,
Yeah,
plus
yeah.
gigs,
Yeah, it was only a couple of months, like 3-4 months maybe.
which is very little, right?
Yeah.
Were you concerned that, like, oh, I'm not gonna make it? Were you thinking?
Yeah,
before?
of course, all the
Yeah.
time. Actually, I was not sure if I should do it with the dubbing station, and ask everyone
Right.
if I should really do it. Like everyone around me, if I should really do it. And everyone was saying some different stuff, of course. Like also because of the money, and people also saying like. Don't quit your job until you're really solid, but at some point you have to decide. Like there will be, if you're lucky, there will be this point where rapidly your gig amount is rising, and then you're like, okay, and now I can quit. But normally the transition is pretty rough. I have the feeling like you're building up your career, and at some point, if you're not happy, you have to decide, because the time you're spending at your job you don't like also is the time where you could do a new record.
Right.
Basically, actually, yeah.
Plus, maybe if the job is stressful, you have all this thing that kind of intoxicates also the time you have.
Yeah,
it's not just about the
stressful.
physical time.
At the end of the day, you don't have enough energy to make the record. You're coming home and maybe you're sitting down and trying to do the record at 7 p.m. until 11, where you're almost dying, and then sleeping at your studio place. But at some point I had the feeling that if I don't quit now, it's gonna be a wrong direction I will go. And I think for a solid career, or if you really want to go full into something, you have to make how do you say, like you have to quit something. You have to make one big
bet, or
maybe not a bet, or
a leap, a jump, or I think
a big decision. You have to make a big decision and leave something behind you.
Fair enough. And I think a lot of times we're scared that, like, oh, I'm gonna be on the streets, which is not.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's not the case for most of us. We have
Yeah.
support, and yeah, we can make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was one thing I would need to leave behind me at this point.
Yeah.
And it's actually, yeah, it was last year, so it's not not a long time ago I decided to do this.
Freelancing.
Yeah.
And that's like Natoshan mastering. And that's when you launch it, right?
Yeah, it's
Officially.
Natoshan audio. It's like a base for mixdowns, masterings, sound designs, and I also giving
Yeah.
from time to time master classes.
Yeah, well done as well. I mean, it worked out for you. It's hard work. It's not easy.
Yeah.
So it's great that you made the decision. You trusted yourself,
Yeah.
and then eventually it's working out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you something about your production as well. You're also doing a masterclass for Homo Sound. You did another one for Beatworks very recently. I mean, your low end in most of the tracks sounds very groovy and clean. Anything you can say about like how one or two things that could help a producer make a very clean, punchy low end for their tracks?
I would say, well, a combination. You mean like a combination of a kick and sub bass?
Kick, sub bass, and I don't know if you add toms or if you add other elements like bass line or a tom. Yeah.
I think the most important thing is to have a clear source actually first, like a very nice sounding sound source already before you're starting to mix it. And tuning is a really important thing. So like tuning the bass to the kick and the other way. So the combination of the kick and the toms or of the bass already is working well. And then of course like the equalizing, so making space. More equalizing on the bass. Rather than on the kick, but the combination of equalizing the bass and to the kick.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very, very interesting. I mean, it sounds simple, but it's actually can be very hard to implement. Do you tend to use a lot of the external? Do you do a lot of processing after EQing on the bass, for example, with saturation or compression or other VSTs that do some stuff, or?
Yeah, like I use maybe one compressor and one saturation tool, and also combining maybe one low kick with a top end to have a more clearer overall sound of the kick, or to have it standing out of the mix.
Okay, when you make your own tracks, how do you start a project? Like, you start with the melody, or other parts, or the drums,
I think for just starting a track, there's no particular way I start. I have separate recording sessions where I just do jam sessions with the synth.
Yeah.
With different synths, or just experimenting in my studio and recording it for a long time, and then chopping up the recordings or reusing the recordings to the next session.
And the recording do you also use a drum machine in that session, or you tend to work with the synth?
Yeah, I tend to work actually only for the sound design with the synths, like experimenting with synth lines, with pads, and just collecting material for the next session. So like loading up your pool of sounds, and then you have more inspiration for the next one, for the next session.
So you tend to split, for example, you do a session where you're playing around, create takes of something that you like, and then session split, like a next session, you actually go into, I like this, let's make a track out of it. Yeah, that's how you tend to work.
Yeah, exactly. So like splitting up the creative process, it's both creative processes, but one creative process of finding interesting sounds and sound design, and then going into the next session of using parts of the creative process before and trying to build up from there.
Okay. And then, so let's say session 1, ideas. Session 2, make a track. Is there a session 3 where you do, for example, arrangement, fine tuning?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like session 3, if I not already did it in session 2, because session 2 is actually I try to build up directly the arrangement because otherwise I tend to get stuck in the clip view maybe.
In the loop.
In the loop, yeah.
Stuck in the loop, like Lag would say.
Stuck in the loop, yeah. The stuck in the loop effect is definitely a big part
Yeah.
for a lot of people maybe. But the secret to not getting stuck in the loop is just to trying to build up the track as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And it's not because you need to rush something, but rather than you need to express your feeling right now.
Right.
Now. Otherwise, it's like the best tracks actually when you doing it in 1 hour or something. A lot of people saying it, and it's true because you have one vision in your mind or you have a feeling and you need to express it now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like two different vibes you're trying to get glued together in the third session or something.
Yeah, I really think so too. And I started thinking about it. Also, there is, do you know Rick Rubin?
Yeah.
It is brought.
I saw you have the book.
Yeah, the book. I keep recommending it to everybody.
I have it in my bookshelf, but I
Great
didn't read it yet. You
It's
read it already?
Yes, it's an amazing book.
Because back to Andrew Huberman, he invited him to the session. Did you saw it?
Yeah. I think there's 2 podcasts.
Such a freaky guy. I don't know. Such a crazy guy.
Crazy guy.
Yeah.
He just came to, I mean, he always comes to mind for many reasons, but he came to mind because recently he was giving a podcast to, I think maybe with Andrew Huberman actually, the second part 2 that they did, and Rick was saying that exactly what you're saying. It's very good when you have an idea, go as fast as possible, try to finish the track completely.
Yeah.
And he even says, like before, he learned it from, I think Paul McCartney from the Beatles, you know. And he said, I thought it was about work ethic, so you get shit done, and then realize, no, it's about the idea. You want to capture the idea without your brain interjecting and saying, no, this, yes, you know. You want to bypass your brain, go with the feeling, write it as much as possible, and then at some point you will judge whether it makes sense to continue.
Yeah, exactly. This guy was super interesting also with his red glasses, so he don't get other light into his eyes. And he works always with red light, and I'm like, oh, how? Like, that you're not getting, brain, how do you, headache?
Yeah, I actually bought some glasses with red shades.
Is it actually helping? Or
I only wear them at night. For example, if I have to work after, I always work with the laptop after, if after 8 p.m. I try to go to sleep at 10. So I want 2 hours of chilling down. So if I have to work with the laptop after 8 p.m., I put the glasses so I can keep working on the laptop, but at least it looks like very toned down.
But a question I'm asking myself always is then, the new computers, they already have retina or retina display, so the display which dims the blue light. Yeah. So it's already already dimmed. No.
I think that's great. What makes a difference for me is that when I have the day job, that computer doesn't have this display, so I have a very blue light. That's super shit at night. And the other thing that for me is useful is, for example, if I go into the kitchen or somewhere to cook, there is different lights in my room, right? And with the glasses, it kind of like you have a filter. It's blends out everything together. So you don't need to go from one light to another. It's all like pink.
Yeah. I need to try it.
I don't know if it works. For me, maybe it's a placebo, but it's working. You know, I feel like, okay, I can chill out. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And just going back to your performances and career, like I always keep asking the question, what is one of the craziest things that happened to you in your DJing and performing life?
Yeah, so I think at this part, I don't have too crazy stories. I was thinking maybe I think the craziest story, or it's not crazy, but it was a challenging maybe situation when I had a gig in Prague for Here and There and another crew, and something went wrong with the booking app I had. So the time was written for Friday instead of Saturday.
Shit.
And it was like 2 p.m. at the day, and I was sitting in my room and doing music, and at some point I'm getting a call or a message from the promoter like, "Hey David, how is it going? How is the road? Is everything going well?" And I'm like,
Fuck.
"Wait, which road?" Like I'm at home and I'm asking him like, "How do you mean?" And he's like, "Are you not on your way?"
No way. It's like,
And
fuck.
I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he was like writing a laughing smiley like, "You're playing tonight." And then I was getting in touch with my booker, like asking him what's going on, and yeah, I think there were some things went missing or wrong in the booking app, and I had to decide pretty quickly what to do, and I just got a BlaBlaCar, so like the service where you getting where a driver is driving from one direction to another direction, and he is offering people to have a seat in his car.
Yeah.
So BlaBlaCar is sharing car. So I was getting the service like writing a person, or first I was checking in the app if someone was driving from Berlin to Prague at this time, because like it's not obvious. But luckily there was a guy who was driving from Berlin, so I was
Amazing.
packing in 1 hour my records and then running to the ICC bus station to get this car, and then was driving with 2 other guys in a car and my record bag in a car in the evening to Prague.
Wow.
But I came there on time, everything was nice, but it was a funny story because
Shit.
the promoter was already like waiting for me there, and he was like, "Did you forgot you were playing?" Like, and
Yeah,
I
imagine.
didn't know what to say. It was, yeah, I don't know what went wrong at this point. Yeah, it was just like a situation where
Yeah.
things went wrong in general.
But you fix it. I mean, like,
Yeah,
not even
timings went wrong. Something went wrong.
days went wrong. Dates. There was a day of difference. 24 hours. And did you invite the guys to your gig? Did they come? The guys that you shared the trip with?
It was just it was actually Czechian guy who was driving to his family, and he didn't have a clue about techno or something. He was just like, I had a job somewhere, and I'm driving now for, I think he was saying like over 24 hours. So that was a pretty rough drive for him.
Wow. Were you scared that like this guy's gonna be?
No, he was
What
pretty solid. He was driving so. Yeah, that was
Amazing.
a funny situation, but it was super nice because I came there on time and everything went smoothly. I
Okay.
didn't.
Wow.
I did also have time to have something to eat and.
Wow. Smooth.
Yeah.
Very smooth. And another question I wanted to ask you is like, do you have any so far any festival performances that for you really stayed with you because they were really important, amazing for you, where you felt great?
Festival performances is.
Or festival gigs or any performance?
I have to say, like, I'm not. I didn't had that much festival performances actually. But my like really very first real festival performance was at Shalem Shilf. I was booked by Glaskin, and I was playing after Stani
Yeah.
and before Etap Kyle, so it was a really nice slot, and musically, like, it was really a nice timetable. So like Stani, amazing guy, and it was really nice playing after him and before Atap Kyle, and the musical styles fitted really well.
Yeah.
And so that was a really nice first festival performance, actually.
Yeah, pretty cool. Especially when you like both the person who plays before you
Yeah.
or next to
Yeah.
you. You know them already, so it
Yeah.
feels like...
Both are amazing DJs,
Yeah.
so yeah, I enjoyed both sets.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
Very cool. And another question that I would like to ask you is how do you imagine your life in 5 years or 10 years from now?
I hope I will be able to do music just in general, like to be able to listen to music, to be able to enjoy producing music and having the same passion and power I have now. Like,
Yeah.
I hope for that, as a first point, and what I always had in mind, like a vision, or that would be really nice to have, like a studio in the mountains with a glass window, and you have your DJ setup, or like not a DJ setup, your studio setup in front of the glass window with the view on a nice panoramic view on the mountain somewhere in Black Forest or Bavarian Alps.
Sounds beautiful.
With a lot of cats in the studio.
Other cats and plants.
Cats and plants.
Always. And you seem to have also read in another interview that you released a lot of gratitude for what you have right now, appreciation about what you have. Is there anything you do to feel the gratitude, or kind of like express the gratitude that you have? You said something, I remember, something such as with every release I do, every gig I get, like I feel like how lucky I am to be living this life. Do you remind yourself every day of these amazing things that happen in your life?
I think that's one tool which helps you maybe for your self-doubt. So if you're not sure with your career, or there's also like this trend that people trying to they're watching other artists, and they checking the artist with their own career, so like comparing the careers or comparing the success, and that's really dangerous, or not good for your mental health. So one tool would be just checking how your career went and which goals you had, and looking into the past and in your career and seeing your goals and embracing the goals, like seeing like, nice, I actually did this and this in this period of time.
Yeah.
I released this record, I met this person, this guy played my track. It could be anything, like I got a message from this artist which I really like, and embracing this goals. It's not even it's you could actually do a screenshot of nice messages from artists only for yourself. It's nothing bad about it, or it's not about like that you celebrating yourself about your goals. It's just for yourself to see what you already
accomplished.
Actually,
it's appreciation, right? It's
appreciating yourself.
It's like when you get, for example, the promo feedback from a release that you have a lot of artists.
Actually that's like it. It's like promo feedback from Fat Drop.
It's amazing, no? When you receive it, like now, before... because
that's actually also nice Fat Drop messages, making screenshots of artists saying good words about your music already is a dopamine boost for you, and helps you in your dark times.
And I like what you said before, which is when you compare yourself to others, it's almost like the opposite of gratitude. It's like the anti-gratitude, where whatever you do, you can always find someone that somehow in that metric does it better or bigger or faster, whatever. And then you feel like it sucks, but it's,
So that's doesn't make sense to compare yourself
Yeah.
to an artist and asking why he has more followers or why he plays at this gig, because yeah, at the end, like you say, there will be always one guy who does it better than
Yeah.
you.
For sure. Doing whatever, you know.
I think I heard this from Elon Musk, actually. That's a quote from Elon Musk. Uh, don't matter how hard you try, there will be always someone who does it better than you.
For
And that
sure.
sounds pretty bad, actually, because it's like, no, okay, so I don't even have to try, but that's not the point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not his
that's
fault.
not the point
Yeah.
about this message, actually. It's more like you have to look at yourself and to see what you have done in the past and what you're doing now, and maybe seeing it at this point. So in another way, saying like, I did it like this, and maybe I have to do it better now, and maybe I have to do
Yeah.
try harder.
Yeah, it's like in video games when you have the ghost of your
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah.
you're doing racing video games, you have a ghost of yourself.
yeah,
Previous laps, you
Yeah.
need to beat it.
Yeah,
I think that's much better because also appreciating everything you get as a.
yeah,
It's not a given that you play a gig. It's not a given you get a release. It's not a given someone sends a message saying I love your music or
Yeah.
supports it.
yeah. It was always, for me, it was always a positive vibe, like getting good feedback, or that's
Yeah.
why you're doing it. That's why you're
Yeah.
sending music to artists and asking. And if you're getting bad feedback, well, then you
That's
have to
okay.
do better.
Yeah, that's okay, exactly. And I wanted to ask you some final questions as we wrap up.
Yeah.
If you were to choose between playing in front of 10,000 people that you don't know, strangers, you don't have any time to actually go and connect with any of them, and 50 friends, like people you know really well that are like your friends, what would you choose?
I think 50 friends. Yeah. I always had fun playing in smaller, intimate places with a nicer vibe than huge stages where people don't party that much. So like,
Yeah.
it's very often that people don't have this energy in big places somehow.
Yeah, and it's much harder to feel it because
Yeah.
especially big stage when you're high up, you don't really see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
much harder. Yeah. And if you were to choose one closing track for the rest of your life, one set closing track, what would that be?
That's a good one. But I have a couple of closing tracks. I like closing tracks. I like to choose closing tracks.
It's great, no?
CJ Bowl and C-Ninth or Zenith.
Okay. I don't remember it or don't know it.
It's from an album.
Okay.
Actually, like a super breakbeaty, super emotional track, or Tony Leone Found a Place from these early Berkane releases,
Okay.
Oscartone releases.
I'm gonna check them out. Yeah. And can you sing aloud one of your latest tracks?
But what latest track? I don't even know.
It can be Shima from Permanent or
I don't even know how to sing this.
it's a tricky question, you know, for
Yeah.
techno, for groove.
Yeah, for techno, it's a super tricky question. I wouldn't even know how to start it.
Okay, next question. One track that got you into music. That doesn't have to be techno or electronic at all. Something that really got you interested to you. One of your first memories into music.
In general, in music.
Yeah.
I think it's. Also in some interview I mentioned it, but it's music from my father's CDs. So like my father had like different kind of music, like it was like dub reggae, and it was Led Zeppelin, Nirvana, also Rhythm and Sound. Maybe you know it.
Yeah.
It's also like part of Basic Channel.
Yeah, basic channel. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Super interesting.
And I don't know if it's
Mhm.
part of Basic Channel, but it's there is a singer also who also was singing for Basic Channel. But yeah, there are like so many musical styles I had from my father, and all these CDs and all in all were shaping my musical, musical taste, I would say.
Mhm.
So like a bit more, a bit metal, a bit rock, a bit reggae, King Tubby, Lee Perry, these
Mhm.
kind of stuff, and all these CDs brought me into music.
Yeah, that made you
Yeah,
close to
yeah.
listening.
So I had like a very diverse musical influence
Mhm.
from these CDs from my father.
Yeah, it's very fascinating to see like how every artist has so many different influences,
Yeah.
and that eventually cascades into what you are today. But
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
transforms.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's one guilty pleasure track of yours? Something that you would not play in a set.
I mean, I really like to listen to German hip hop, and I don't know if you know this artist like Bushido.
Yes, of course.
You know Bushido?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, oh, that's funny.
It's
So like Bushido by Nacht.
man.
It's like the early days of
Yeah.
they were called Agro Berlin. Agro
Okay,
Berlin
yeah.
with Sido, Be Tight,
Yeah.
and basically all the stuff from Die Sekte. It's
Yeah.
like the community of all these rappers,
Fuck.
like Sido, Bushido, and there it was so aggressive always, and the beats were like so rough and partly like super rough electro also. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like ghetto electro, or and
Yeah.
the texts were very
Fucking
rough.
crazy.
But I really love this stuff. So like Bushido by
Yeah.
Nacht
Is
is the
this kind
stuff.
is this kind of lyrics that would get you cancelled now? Yeah, so harsh. You listen to some tracks.
Yeah.
You're like, holy shit! People were saying these things 20
Yeah,
years ago.
it's
you know?
not too it's not diverse enough, and
Like I know Bushido because one of my best friends, who's also a big hip hop fan, he doesn't
Yeah.
do music at all. From Italy, he used to like we're so much into hip hop, like
Yeah.
Italian hip hop, and he was showing me this Bushido stuff, and I didn't understand anything of the lyrics, and then we were translating. We're like, holy shit!
Yeah.
Like did they really are they saying this stuff? Like very harsh.
Also, Die Sekte, Gib mir ein Mic.
Give me, I'm Mike. Yeah.
I have to play it to you later, but
We played.
it's super rough, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say this kind of rough, early German hip hop
Yeah.
is the guilty pleasure.
Very cool.
Nowadays we have really good German hip hop artists, like
Yeah.
or
You-
trap, rap
Yeah.
artists.
Does
definitely.
anybody come to mind?
Yeah, 102 Boys or Glen Gang,
Glen Gang.
030.
I need to write them down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
that's kind of this German hip hop stuff
Yeah.
I really like.
do you like the lyrics or the beats more?
Yeah, like the
lyrics.
combination. I really need to have a good combination of good beats and a good voice. I don't like if the voice is not pleasing my
Yeah.
ears.
Yeah.
The voice needs to sound pretty good, and also the flow. So kind of a combination.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm a big fan of hip hop and trap.
Yeah,
I listen to a lot of Italian, also British.
Oh, you have to show me the Italian trap or rap. Wow.
Like I got my Spotify, you know, the end of the year they give you like the 5 most listened artists. None of them was techno. 4 of them are Italian trap.
Nice. That's how it needs to be.
One of them was like electronic music, non-techno. I was like, holy shit. I mean, yeah, but it's good to have some. Otherwise, it just everything becomes like echo chamber, right?
Yeah.
It's beautiful to have other completely
definitely.
different inspiration.
Definitely.
Yeah. If you were to choose one artist to spend 1 week on a deserted island with, who would that be and why?
It would be my one of my best friends, Adam, aka Regent.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out, going out to Regent. uh, yeah, it's basically one of my best mates, and
Yeah.
I think it would be fun.
Easy.
To,
Very cool. And what's one thing or project you are very excited, future project of yours that you're very excited about?
I think the most excited I'm about my future 10 releases. So I'm working very long now for the music and figuring out the concept and the A sides and B sides and the artwork and just the whole process. And it's very exciting, and also just like thinking about how it will sound and look at the end. And yeah, I'm getting nearer and nearer to sending it out to the pressing.
Yeah, congratulations. That's a big thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing it.
I'm looking forward also how it will look and sound at the end.
It's gonna happen. And one last question. We ask everybody to ask a question for the next guest.
Yeah.
What do you think we should ask the next guest?
Yeah. What do you think will be the next trend after hard techno and hard groove?
Like it. I hope we're gonna get someone very opinionated about this. You like the whole story. And there's a question for you, of course.
Yeah.
Why are you really involved in music?
Well, but I mean, because it's just a passion which comes from the inside when you finding the passion at some point of your life. You're finding this passion you really want to do, and that's why you're in the music. I think that's rather very simple to answer, actually.
Great. And on that note, I think we're gonna close it. It's been a pleasure to have you here and to chat and get to know you more.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. A pleasure.